Is that like the best representation of core fitness to have a six-pack?
No, not at all. You don't necessarily need to go to the gym and do hundreds of sit-ups. Doing something little and often and lots of variety, then maybe doing some specific core stuff may well be enough for what you're asking your body to do.
What I'm hearing is, because I'm walking, cycling to work, picking up the kids, that is sort of maintaining the core, and I could top up with a once a week or maybe twice a week, a little
I
session.
heard once a week. I've written it down, right. You've got this massive expertise. How do I, or any of our listeners who want one, get a six-pack?
You're really going to begin with this.
It might lead in an interesting direction. Come on, indulge me.
James, indulge it.
Look, there are multiple factors for anybody to get a six-pack. A lot of them really depend on the individual. A lot of them depend on your lifestyle. A lot of them depend on your sleep, your nutrition, your habits that you're going to go through. The sheer fact of just doing exercises around your abs or just being physically fit will not necessarily give you a six-pack. Quite often it has to be a commitment around lots of lifestyle sort of factors to then influence that appearance.
The sense I'm getting is, first of all, it's going to be a lot of work. And
It is
secondly,
a lot of work.
You're not going, right, Xand, let me help you. I'm going to send you my 10 weeks to a six-pack. Like, it doesn't seem like something you're enthusiastic.
No, I don't think that happens that easily. I think there are certain people who are naturally genetically gifted that can get the six-pack really easily. I think for the large majority of the population, it is a lot of hard work.
Would I be healthy if I had a six-pack? Is that like the best representation of core fitness to have a six-pack?
No, not at all.
Oh, Chris is really already, he feels like he's winning here. Okay.
I love this. So I think a lot of people do muddle up the core and the six-pack. I want to run with Xand's six-pack thing for a moment. If we got in one of these very aesthetic people, perhaps a Hollywood A-lister with a six-pack, if we brought them into your clinic, would they all actually have pretty good core strength?
Yes, I think with any sort of testing parameter, you test them based around what do they need to achieve and what's the outcome task. Now, what you might find with the Hollywood actors is they fit for purpose in terms of how they've created their aesthetic. Once you start to challenge them outside of what they've done to create that aesthetic, they may well start to find that there's some discrepancies or they fall apart a little bit. So you will always be able to find something with most people, unless they've got like a really, really comprehensive plan. And quite often when someone's just going for the six-pack, they're not necessarily going for the optimal function of how does my trunk and core work at the highest level under any challenge that I might be placing my body under, which is a very different kind of mindset to get into as opposed to I just want the aesthetics of a six-pack.
Well, that makes me feel better.
The six-pack and the functional core strength are two just completely separate things. Let's talk about some of the kind of the anatomy, what we're actually talking about. Because when you say core, I think you've used trunk and core.
Yep.
How should we think about what the core is and what exactly are we talking about?
The trunk really is, for want of a better description, it's a cylinder around the lower part of your spine that connects your rib cage to your pelvis.
Okay.
Right?
And it's flexible.
100%.
There's no bones at the front.
Nope. So it's connecting the pelvis to the rib cage, but it also connects it the whole way around your body. So it's your low back, and that the tension and the muscle tension in your low back creates tension in the front, and tension in the front creates tension in the back. So the whole thing works together in harmony. But like with any cylinder, there's got to be a top and a bottom. So the top comes from your diaphragm and the way in which you control your breathing. And then the bottom part is then your pelvic floor.
Okay, I love this. I think we should do another episode on the pelvic floor. In men and women, we both have a pelvic floor, but particularly with a focus on women and postpartum. So give me the 101 of we've got this tube of muscle, we've got the pelvic floor at the bottom, the diaphragm at the top. How does the core work? How should we think about it? What's it doing in normal life?
So I think there's two things. From a function point of view, there is a level of pressure within your abdominal region, and that pressure provides some support to your spine. But in order for you to really work and move well, you've got to counteract that pressure inside your abdominal and counteract that pressure when you're breathing by using tension in your abdominal muscles to hold everything together. That supports the spine to allow it to move freely and efficiently under the task. So if you create too much tension, the spine will become rigid and you won't be able to move. And that's great if you're picking up a very heavy object and you're moving like a sofa or a bed and you want your spine to be locked in. But if you need flexibility with movement, then you need this subtle coordination where you've got the timing and the different pressure and the different tension that's been created by all of these different muscles.
So if we look at a couple of examples, you go to pick up some shopping or pick up a heavy object, maybe you're moving a piece of furniture, can I do this like this? I'll try and talk toward the mic. But I'm going to go down and I'm actually going to brace the whole thing all the way around.
Sure.
But I'm bending over. These muscles at the back, they're going to be doing a little bit more work because they're the ones that are going to have to flex. But I still, even though I'm bent forward, I'm still going to tense these ones a bit just to keep that tension. Then if I'm doing something more dynamic, I'm dancing or I'm moving lighter objects, if I'm like the ironing or I'm passing something to you, I'm going to sit down by the mic. But I'm actually... It's not just the back moving, I'm keeping a bit of tension there to kind of support the whole column and support the spine.
Yeah, the demand of the task and what you're picking up will directly relate to how hard you have to work. So if you're picking up a 20 kilogram object and that's, picking up your kids, my 6-year-old every day that I am available and not at work to take her to school, Daddy, can I go on your shoulders?
Yeah.
And the demand of that is, yes, I have to brace, but I have to constantly adapt to what she's doing because what she's doing is unpredictable.
You're painting a great picture of having these young children on our shoulders, which all of us have at the moment. The thing I notice is that my wife is carrying our son around much more than me and actually seems much better able to do it.
Yep, they do indeed. So quite often dads will pick up the kids in the morning, take them to school, and we're out at work and doing other stuff. And then certainly if your wife is at home working with the kids, then they're picking them up on a daily basis. And I look at my wife on a regular basis, picking up certainly my 6-year-old, and she does it far more efficiently than I do. Maybe because I'm a bit bigger and a bit stronger, I maybe don't always think about the most efficient way to do that. And I think that you can then look at the way women work within that remit, and because they have less muscle mass, they have to move more efficiently and they have to use their core in a slightly different way.
That's have you noticed this? I noticed Dinah can be at home with the baby and she'll prop the baby on the hip in a way I can't quite do it. And then is incredibly efficient. Will also just do a load of work and she can empty the dishwasher.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so you've got a kid on your shoulders. Can you paint a picture for our listeners about what's going to happen in their bodies when they do this?
So when you've got an object on your back, what's constantly happening is you're creating tension on one side versus the other, the top versus the bottom, and the muscle is feeding back really quickly and it's reacting to any movement. So if I step forward with my right leg, part of my outside of my right muscle is going to work really hard. A different part of my abdominals on my left-hand side is going to work really hard to control the twist, and that's just stepping. If you then put a child on top of you, it's going to work even harder because now you've got an extra weight, you've got an extra object. That child might be moving around, turning back, going, hey, mum, this is what I'm doing. Look at me, you know. And then you're reacting towards what they're doing. But you're constantly having to adjust and adapt. So your muscular system is working, but the better trained it is, the more it'll be working as a reflex and it's working in a very reactive way. If you're not as well conditioned, then it works in very much a reactive way, in a kind of, oh, well, what am I doing? Right, let's kind of brace and protect me and stop me from doing stuff, as opposed to anticipating what I'm trying to do.
And the whole tube is also under a degree of tension that you've just raised a bit of pressure there for 100%. The stability.
And the fitter and stronger that area is, the more passive resting tension it has.
So it's very, very interesting listening to you talk about the core. It feels like you're making the case that six-pack is, those muscles are not terribly important. The other muscles are very important, and having a strong core is really good. The thing that I genuinely don't know what you're going to say is, should we all be doing core workouts? So I think loads of people hate doing planks, sit-ups, and push-ups, I guess, are the sort of
side planks,
all that stuff. People hate working out their cores.
Spider-Man.
And you're saying your core's getting a good workout when you're just carrying your kid on your shoulders.
Yep.
Should Chris, should the listeners be doing a specific core workout? I've only got so much time in the week. Would it be better to just go for a jog?
So I think General activity, and whether you jog, whether you walk, whether you, like I would say, walking up a hill is going to stress your core really well and you're going to get a good workout. But you're not specifically training the muscles and building capacity within those and targeting those muscles. What you're doing is you're improving their function within that task. Muscles will always adapt to what you tell them to do. Your body is as efficient as you tell it to be and as efficient as your brain tells it to be. So if I spend all my time sitting in a chair, my muscles adapt to my posture in that chair. If I then ask it to do something else, it's not necessarily trained to do that. So it won't necessarily respond in the most optimal way. So depending on what you're asking your body to do, you need to build a level of capacity and or train it for that. If you want a very good core and a functional trunk, you need to train it, right? And as you get older, we know that one of the biggest things that happen, certainly as you get into past your 40s, you've got a risk of what we call sarcopenia. So you lose muscle mass and you lose strength. And so the ability to lose that muscle mass and strength, you've got to retrain that. If you've had back pain, the muscles change the way they work, you've got to retrain that. If you've gone through pregnancy, your muscles get stretched, you lose the capacity to control some of those muscles, you've got to retrain them. So depending on the level of the task that you're trying to do, you have to have specific training for that task. If you want to optimize your trunk, you have to target those muscles. You will get benefit by picking up heavy objects. You will get benefit by carrying your shopping. You will get benefit by going for a jog, rowing, walking uphill. All of that will train those muscles, but it won't optimize them for multiple different tasks. It will just make them good at that specific task.
Just to be clear, because I think we increasingly talk not just about lifespan, but about the idea of health span. So just wanting good years as you get older. Once I'm in my 60s, 70s, 80s, I want to be able to I want to be able to carry grandchildren, go to the shops, try and be as independent as possible. And it sounds like you're saying actually to really be able to get through life as healthily and comfortably as I can, we all should be doing a bit of core training. That's the message I'm getting? Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, any muscle needs specific training to maintain its optimal function. We would turn around and say, well, you don't necessarily need to go to the gym and do hundreds of sit-ups. Doing something little and often through the day and lots of variety. So, doing a little bit of Pilates, doing a little bit of yoga, going for walks, getting on your exercise bike, then maybe doing some specific core stuff once a week. That variety may well be enough for what you're asking your body to do. Now, if you want your body to do more, it needs lots and lots of stimulus in order to maximize it. And a lot of that stimulus can just come from everyday life.
What I'm hearing is because I'm walking, cycling to work, picking up the kids, doing all this stuff, that is sort of maintaining the core, and I could top up that low-grade core stuff with a once a week or maybe twice a week a little session.
I heard once a week.
I heard once.
That really
he
leapt
said
out.
Once.
The phrase once a week leapt out. I've written it down right here.
I wrote fortnightly.
Tell us, what should we do once a week?
Exercises have to be specific for that person. So you've got to find what's right for you and what's comfortable and what's achievable. And I'd say it almost just needs to be as simple as that. Does it feel comfortable? Can you achieve it? And do you feel like you're working the area without overloading your body as a first and foremost, rather than going specific exercises?
And can people do that without going to see an expert? Can they figure this out by themselves?
Exercise at the end of the day is about gradually building a tolerance. So the technical term is progressive overload. So you progressively increase the strain on your body. So you keep the exercise the same, but you just gradually increase the demand. As you do that, your functional trunk will gradually get stronger. Quite often we'll say, well, here are 12 exercises, pick 3, vary it. So
you've got a sort of press up and a sit up, for example.
So you've got a menu, press up, sit up, plank, side plank, whatever. Can you do a variety of, vary those exercises, whether it's 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 10 reps, 5 reps, and just work continuously for 2 to 4 minutes. And if you can do that, you will progressively improve your functionality of your trunk.
So for me, what's really cool is we've got a way of doing some core exercises, but even if you just pick up carry your shopping a little bit further, you do walks, you are still exercising your core. I think
Go up a hill.
You lost the 6-pack bit, but I think it's a dead heat on our perspectives on specific core
I
exercises.
like the way he takes charge on that, on who wins and who doesn't win.
Yeah, Chris, I would say you've been too generous there. I think having been not a core workout person, I'm leaning towards going, you know what, I'm almost 47. I think I've got to start doing this. I think if I want to be able to do everything I want to do, I think I should be doing a bit of core stuff and protecting myself against injury. It does feel James is making the case for doing it. I think if you're someone who's really short of time or really short of enthusiasm, you don't have to panic. That's the sense? Is that right?
Yep.
One thing we always ask all our guests, and I may be especially fascinated to ask you this, is how does your expert knowledge change the way that you live your life? Is there a specific thing you do that's a little bit different that we might not know about?
So, like, I was always very, very active, but I had my first knee surgery at 13. And I actually had another surgery at 18 as well. That kind of shaped my life in terms of, right, I do something pretty much every day. So I try and do something every day. Lifestyle now takes over. And also, like, I get tired more than I used to, and I don't recover as much, and I have to listen to my body differently than what I used to. So my aspiration is to try and do something. So
you do miss the odd day?
Yeah, without question. So, I mean, right now I would say I probably train 4 times a week consistently because I'm that little bit older. I think certainly when I was younger, it was like 5, 6, 7 days a week, every day from that point of view. But I also understand now that I have to be more specific in what I do, and I have to make sure I have more varieties. So all the fun stuff that I used to like to do, which was run and lift weights, can't get away with it anymore. I have to do more variety and do the stuff that I don't necessarily enjoy as much.
I love that. It's so fascinating, isn't it?
It's so interesting. James, thanks so much for coming in.
Pleasure. Absolute
Thanks very
pleasure.
much.